It's Part to Truth. JJ Tabane. We're coming to you live from Hyde Park here in Johannesburg. Kuze kude, hey, Mandisi Chanchis, they're trailing the blaze at this weekend's Cape Town Jazz Festival, just bringing down the house, man. You know, amazing, amazing stuff. Can you imagine that just 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't know who this guy is, and his second album had 4 million downloads. I mean, this is the stuff that in the midst of all the chaos that's happening in South Africa, we should celebrate that we could produce something like this and export it. I mean, his gig guide is an amazing feat, you know, performing in every corner of the world, produced here in Mzansi. But he says that in that song, Kuze Kude, it's far where we are going. And if you look at what the DA has done, in the name of getting votes, you just have to agree with him that it is very far where we are going. Where a political party thinks that it's okay to bend down the flag. Yeah, so I was wondering, you know, I'm sure you're exhausted of discussion. I've just been discussions on social media the whole day, etc., you know. But I thought, you know, there was a big controversy about the old South African flag. And in fact, AfriForum went to court to defend the use of this flag for so-called academic purposes and so on. The DA didn't ban that flag. I mean, I would have supported him if they took out an ad saying, we support the new flag, let's ban this one. And they didn't do that. They wait to ban this one that unites all of us. I just give up, you know, criticizing the DA, because truly, what else do you say, you know? What else do you say? Are we so desperate for votes that would desecrate the very symbol that unites us? As Mandis is saying there, Kuze Kude, we are far, far, far. And these are the people who are saying they'll rescue South Africa. Well, woe unto you if you think you'll be rescued by this. And this shows you what else lies ahead if they can do this and think it's all right. And send spokespersons to defend it, and, you know, and say all sorts of justifications. Even insult to Lima Donsela in the process. To say, yeah, you know, Zuma bent down the country and Lima Donsela must shut up. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Anyway, whereas it's far where we're going, it's also far where we come from. And that's why tonight I wanted to pay special tribute to Dr. Sam Motsuenyane, who is the founder of black economy, real black economy empowerment, not the cheap stuff, cut and paste that we see these days. This is someone who started a bank from scratch in a township not far from my place called Harangua, and started it with a few cents. And today, as he departs this earth, there's a legacy he can point in African Bank. And I think that's a kind of good story that we should be able to be proud of, to say, yes, it's far where we're going, but it's also far where we come from. And we need to be able to, in the noise of elections and electioneering, be also to discern these stories that says South Africa has a huge potential to succeed, but it's up to you and me on the 29th to put it in the good hands that will make the dream not be deferred, but actually make that dream to come alive. After my show tonight, we've got a new show, and the host of that show is here to tell us all about it. Dan, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I have very few bucket list items in my life. Yeah. One is to be lucky enough to have Mandisi Janchis. My show doesn't have the budget to afford Mandisi opening, but one day I hope. 2 was to see you go off live. I watch all of the videos. I don't know if I'm the blessed receptive audience tonight. I feel like I've won the lottery.
Well, let me tell you, you can have Mandisi anytime. You just tell me. He was on the show here and he said you can play any music anytime. You know,
that's blessed.
Yes, and he was here for an hour talking to us as well. So If one day you just feel crazy and you want to play one of his crazy songs, let me know. But what should you expect from your show tonight?
So I have, for 10 years, I'm 30 now, from the age of 20, I have dreamed of late night American-style TV happening in South Africa.
Okay.
News, politics, with humor, because we South Africans
With humor,
we're the funniest people on the planet. And
Yeah.
often it's because we use joy to laugh through the pain or the disbelief of just going, I cannot believe this happened.
understand?
And then we say that like every day, and then it never gets old. The cannot believe this happened. And so, following in the footsteps of people like John Stewart, John Oliver, Trevor Noah, ENCA has been so kind to give me the chance to do it here. So tonight,
beautiful. But are you going to express some hard views there, or how are you going to do it? Because sometimes the truth is hidden in jest, isn't it?
Yes.
So, for example, what do you think of the DA's banning the flag? Quick response.
It's very hard.
Satirical one.
Okay, it's very hard to laugh at that for the simple reason that the history of flag burning is an evil, aggressive, destroying act. Now they're trying to say, they're trying to represent what the ANC is doing to the flag. But at no point in history has burning a flag meant, we're going to save your country. We're going to turn this act around.
But who advises these people then?
I almost believe that they're trying to lose. I don't know what the big plan is, but time after the time, you remember Dubula Inyanga.
You understand?
What a
or stop black, or black fight black. Or remember Tony Leon?
Yes, or you know, all the Amapanyazans are from a shebeen and drunkards. Like, if you wrote, are you familiar with the TV show Veep?
Yes.
It's Veep. The DA is giving Veep unforced error after unforced error. You can't believe that these are supposed to be experienced politicians.
But I think you must give them a present of a duct tape for John Steenhuisen in between now and the elections, man. Because I think things are going to go away, because he's going to come out and defend this, believe it or not.
He has to.
Right? ANC under 50, is that propaganda, or with all your interaction on social media in the country, you think that it's beginning to be an actual reality, that actually they'll poll, or as they are polling under 50, but actually at the real poll, they'll be under 50.
Well, I think it's extraordinary that we were talking about would they hit 50% in December, and then Jacob Zuma decided he wasn't done yet with us. And now we're talking about will they hit 40. Now, for me, how the ANC does depends on what the Concord says about Jacob Zuma becoming a member of parliament. And that's what we're discussing first on the show tonight, is if the Concord is going to stop him from becoming a member of parliament. Because after that, if he says, to hell with you, and abandons MK, no one's going to vote for them. They're all Zuma supporters. But if he says, you know, well, maybe I'll be premier here, or I'll do something there, vote for us anyway, MK could get 1 million voters. And in KwaZulu-Natal and across the country, that's a ton of ANC. But also, if I was Julius Malema, I'd be panicking, because that's a lot of EFF voters. If we look at ENC elections expert Wayne Sisman, the EFF is hemorrhaging votes in KZN to MK. IFP a little, ANC a bit more. The EFF, tough.
Tell me, EFF, quickly before we close, any redeeming features?
They've got
Let's say you found yourself a member or a supporter.
They've got a great DJ for a leader. Honestly. Did you see Julius Malema at roasts last night? Did you see him at Ibiza at one of his friends' daughter's party? He's good on the decks. He's better than Cyril. Cyril was performing for us earlier this weekend, but I think they're both better than Steenhuisen. Steenhuisen strikes me as like a wedding DJ, you know what I mean? Who might like hit on the bride by accident at some point in the night.
Listen, I look forward to your show. All the best, and welcome here to our team at ENCA.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Make sure 9 p.m. Don't switch off. Stay tuned to that wonderful. Should you call it a satirical? Yes. Satirical show. I'm sure you're going to enjoy that. It's Party Truth with me on Kopotse, JJ Tabane. We are talking working class tonight. And Frank Vurumo, who is representing the Informal Traders Association, joins Zolinzi Mavavi, as well as Matunja, who both need a little introduction. Matthew Parks joining us from Cape Town, also to make the discussion complete. Gentlemen, thank you, and thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. I wanted to start with an interesting thing. There's always a big debate about unions and politics. And Matthew, I think you'll have to start with this, because COSATU has always been accused of being in the pocket of the ruling party, right? And the big question is, can a union be effective if it's in alliance with a ruling party, or there may have to be compromises, right, in that kind of arrangement, right, that would actually make it be unable to perform its task to its full extent. And I'll give you an example. I mean, the government reneged on a big deal of increasing the salaries of public service workers, for example, right? In a typical situation where the union was not in alliance with the ruling party, that would have, the country would have been raised to the ground, because how do you renege on paying your own workers when in fact you are in alliance with them? Matthew, just start me on that to say, in the 30 years, is that not a big lesson there that we should keep those lines a little bit clear? Please weigh in on that quickly.
Yeah, no, good evening, and good evening to the colleagues. Look, there are always contradictions, there are always compromises, there's always a balancing act in whatever you do in life. But at a macro scale, we have to say, yes, it makes sense for unions to have a political agenda to see how to advance working class campaigns on the political front. It would be suicidal for workers or for trade union formation to simply say, well, it's too complicated, it's too messy, let's not enter the political terrain, because then we shouldn't be surprised, we shouldn't complain when we have laws which are not friendly to workers, or if we have governments who don't advance workers' interests. And yes, at times there is contradictions that have been allied to the ANC, but that's fine. We get more out of it than what we don't get out of it. We celebrate our progressive constitution. We celebrate the fact we have a democracy today, that we're heading towards our 7th elections. We celebrate the fact we have some of the most progressive labor laws in the world, that we have a national minimum wage that's helped raise the wage of 6 million workers. So all of these things have been achieved because we have an alliance with the ANC. So I think for us, yes, at times you're not happy with certain issues and you must find a way to resolve it. For example, the 2018 Public Service Wage Agreement, we have to resolve those kind of things through bargaining councils. But unions don't just stop at the issues of wages or the issues of a shop floor struggles. They also look at issues affecting working class communities. They look at how to make sure government spends more on working class communities, uplifting the poor, because that benefits workers.
Okay.
We look at how to make sure that our laws are progressive, because that benefits workers. So there are contradictions, JJ, there always will be. This won't be the last one. But at a macro scale, we have to say, yes, it makes sense because of many things we have managed to achieve with all of the ups and downs.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Viv? Because when you started your union, your friends in NUMSA, I think, are they still your friends?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, wanted to start a party. Yes, wanted to start a political party. And then it failed or something, or they didn't register on time or something. But again, there was that appetite to have a political party that you will be aligned with now that you had left the ANC stable. Your view, is that a correct reading of the situation, that you didn't think there was any problem with the alliance per se? It was just that alliance that was a problem.
Okay, let me go back to your question to Parks. The politics workers and are just one thing. So one thing, the politics flow in the veins of workers, because every day the economic system and the political system determine where they wake up from, and what modes of transport they will use to go to work, what kind of work they will do, what salaries and conditions they will be subjected to, and so forth. So you can't separate workers and the politics anywhere.
Yeah.
The point that Saftu was making is that, yes, of course, we know that we cannot be separated from the politics of the country and of the world economy today, but we want to do that from a platform of being independent, firstly from our employers, but also from the political parties.
Yeah.
And we're enjoying a good time having taken that step, because we have the freedom to criticize anybody.
Yeah.
And even though that are perceived to be closer to us.
So generally you would advise against forming a political party that is not clear whether it's fish or fowl, whether it's a union or in government. You'd rather separate the roles.
The the tripartite alliance, that's an assessment we made as we were being dismissed and 340,000 workers were being shown the door last month. The assessment we had made was that this was untenable because of the nature of the class forces that came together to create an alliance. You can't have an alliance between aspirant bourgeoisie, the comprador capital, the working class, the socialist, and the communist, all of them in one place, and you try to find a way out. It has happened in history, though, that a liberation movement in Cuba transformed itself into a socialist movement. But in South Africa, unfortunately, it is not the socialist forces
I don't want to go
that
deep
were
into
strong
that.
enough.
Matunja doesn't agree because he's just from the Labour Party at the back of AMCU. Please explain.
Yes, thank you. And good evening to your viewers. I think it's very simple. One, let's start by saying we formed AMCO, and they said AMCO will never survive out of the alliance. They must have a political alliance with certain groupings. We are over 22 years now. We made stride. We've changed the lives of...
Outside that alliance.
Outside that alliance. Alliance was good before 1994. It was good for transformation. But as for now, you cannot be in bed with the biggest employer in the land, which is the government. So you distort, you contradict yourself at the end of the day. So we form a Labour Party to rescue even COSATU from where they are, because I mean they cannot rescue themselves. That's why we're coming up with the voice of the left in the parliament in order to influence legislation. Because under the circumstances, all those political parties that are there in parliament, they embrace neoliberalism.
So you can't find even one political party out of the 80 that are going to be on a ballot that would push workers' rights one way or another.
All right, but we talk about 30 years. We had Marikana massacre caused by the current sitting government, ANC government, which they must own to it. What other parties, even the SACP themselves, were calling us yellow unions, the one that's supposed to be the vanguard of the working class. What did other political parties do? Even today, they are quiet about Marikana. Yes, they conveniently so, they mention Marikana, and once they get what they want, they get quiet. So, I mean, how many workers have been dying in the mines today? Have you ever had any political party in this parliament, this old boys club, talking on behalf of the workers that are killed by this mine every day? We've been to strike 5 months, 4 months, 3 months. Did you ever had any of these political parties saying, these are part of our members, they vote us to power?
That's where I want to come in now, right?
So that was the reason that we came with the Labour Party. And this Labour Party, we invited
But it doesn't look like you have succeeded to register, or is that still before the courts?
On Wednesday, we'll be at Constitutional Court, because this, this system of theirs was malfunctioning, not even glitches. So we want to test it to show that it won't be a fair and free election if 67 parties are not part of this election. Because we saw clearly that this IEC is protecting this old boys club.
All right. I wanted to just zone into that exactly, guys, right? And brief remarks from all of you before we go to the party. Before we go to the break. Tell me, right, which political party, and take the top 5, we can't go to all 70, right? Do you think has even an inkling of representing worker or working class interests?
No ways. I mean, casualization of jobs. South Africa is becoming a dumping ground for every Asian groupings or companies. You look, where is SAA today? Where is Transnet today? There is so many things. These political parties, have they stood up and protect the interests of the working class? None.
But all of them are talking about millions of jobs and so on. I mean, those
casualization, you can't talk about EPWP and say opportunities. We don't want job opportunities here.
Yeah.
We spoke about, we submitted memorandum to the government to say 60% of our mineral must be exported, 40 must remain inland for industrialization and beneficiation. We spoke to the government, the sitting government, to say there shouldn't be any shaft that is mothballing the expense of the workers. What did they do? Because they support neoliberal economic policies. Austerity is their day. I mean, if we don't come up with a new thing, stop doing one and the same thing, expecting different outcome as we do, we have to reset this country. And to reset this country, it needs a serious consideration of how we change the Electoral Act, the presidential democracy system. The president must be elected by the people, not by a clinch or cabal of people in the parliament that will clinch and elect for us the president.
Frank, before you go to your break, quickly, what would you want to see political parties doing for the small traders, for really informal economy?
Thanks very much to you and the viewers out there, especially the informal traders. So I think on our side, as informal trade and as informal traders, we might expect the unions to come in, because we've got lots of pressures actually from the state government or this government, whereby they take us as if maybe we are very small and we are illiterated and we do not know nothing. And they even forget that maybe even by post-COVID or even other COVID, lots of people have just lose their jobs. We are even having doctors today at this who are informal traders. They are doing the cakes, they are doing everything. They are on the street, the rain is there. So then I think for me, then we can actually maybe also be allowed maybe to embrace these unions, also that they can be also maybe come in and assist us, because I think maybe their voice is more heard than us on the ground.
They'll zone into that, because COSATU has been at it for a long time. I'm sure they must have a desk somewhere that's dealing with informal traders. I'll be surprised if they don't, because there's legislation, I'm sure, in this direction, all sorts of court cases, informal traders being removed from streets, and you name it. It's part of truth. We continue that conversation tonight. Is the working class really at the center of the agenda? I mean, Zweli, I heard you defending the EFF yesterday. I'm not sure whether that, if they become government, then you will have a new alliance there, right? About particularly the intervention of the state, right? That the state must play a central role in getting us out of the trouble that we are in. Weigh in a little bit on that.
Well, in the manifesto summarized yesterday by ENCA for all of us to debate, clearly the inclination is to move towards a bigger role, a central role for the state, in recognition of the fact that in 30 years of democracy, with what we generally call a pro-business economic program, we have received no real benefits. Not that it's been dark, but there's no real benefits. We've seen increasing levels of unemployment. When the state, led by the ANC, kept on saying its role is just to create an environment for business people to prosper, and that through trickle-down economic programs will get the benefits. The EFF plus a few others, ASAPO, PAC, left-leaning organizations led by Godi, are beginning to say, no, but this have not worked. We need the state that is active, that is developmental, that can crowd in private investment. I said yesterday, and I repeat that, we can quibble, and I do quibble with quite a number of the details that the EFF have put forward, such as creating state institutions around every other challenge that is facing our country, something that will unworkable in the practical sense, but the idea,
the principle,
the principle of a state that can intervene in the economy is what we are very, very happy with.
Okay, Those sounds fine. I mean, it's like Azapo in 1994 not wanting to vote, and at the end they had one seat, and they didn't make an impact, right? Yeah. In terms of the possible coalition governments that are coming, right? Which each sort of combination, because there's an ANC EFF type coalition, and then there is a moonshot. To be honest, those are your two choices, really. Absolutely. Everything else is sort of a version of those two, right? What would be good for the working class?
If the EFF remain true to the 7 pillars,
yeah,
then we will rather prefer a coalition between the ANC and the EFF, because that, based on the 7 pillars that they put forward at the time of
You mean the one that the DA is calling a doomsday coalition?
Yeah, that's better for workers. The doomsday coalition
is doomsday for the elite.
Of course. It will be, the moonshot will be absolutely a disaster for workers.
So that's the actual doomsday for workers.
That's a real doomsday for workers. You know what they're saying in the manifesto, the DA says, before we go on a strike, we must put a deposit. And literally, it's like these guys are living somewhere. And they say, not even the employers will agree to that, because they know if any employer, Anglo-American included, was to say to workers, pay a deposit before you go on a strike, they know that there will be instability right away. Yeah. And I think the DA, because they get so much money, so much funding from these guys, they're now reminding me of the joke that we normally say to one another what's about the language of Palaya Morena in Sesotho. Palaya Morena is the guy that will over-exaggerate when he's interpreting what the king is saying.
Yeah.
So the DA is the Palaya Morena of capital. They go overboard when they're trying to please their funders.
All right, let me pack that. I want to bring in Matthew here. Matthew, what can you tell me, right, that is in the ANC manifesto, that is a direct contribution by COSATU to say this?
Well, there's quite a few things.
If you do this, you'll be, betting on the side of the working class.
Sure, there's quite a few things. And I think the difference between the ANC and the other parties, which are really theoretical, abstract parties. I mean, for example, the Labour Party of Matunjwa, I think they forgot to register that party. It's also a bit strange to complain about the Electoral Act when that act was reviewed by Parliament this past year, and I think they forgot to make a submission. But let's leave that. Look, it's easy to pick on the ANC, sure, but look, the only party which has been with workers for all these years. When SACTU was banned, the ANC was there. When COSATU was formed, ANC was there. When the Progressive Constitution was drafted, our labour laws were put into place, the ANC was one who was championing them. JJ, the issues around what's in the manifesto, I think was a couple of key things, and obviously the many things in the manifesto. What are the major issues? Number one is the national health insurance, universal healthcare, because right now we have the most unequal healthcare system we've inherited from apartheid, a system based upon capitalism. We've seen that it's no longer just a theoretical commitment. The national health insurance bill is passed by Parliament, by the ANC. Business is fighting it, the DA is fighting it. That's going to happen under this administration. It won't be an overnight journey, but it's there. We're finally seeing the foundations for comprehensive social security being built. So one of the major achievements of the ANC with COSATU over many years has been to roll out social security to millions of people. Yes, it's not perfect, but it's a huge achievement that we have 27 million South Africans, our most impoverished compatriots, including 8 million people receiving the SOD grant, having some sort of assistance from the state. So these are the foundations for comprehensive social security. But look, JJ, all of those are kind of not plaster on the wound, but those are kind of supplementary supportive measures. The most critical thing really is about the industrialization of the economy, because we can't sustain an economy with a 41% unemployment. So Comrade Zweli is right. We've got to crowd in domestic and foreign investment. We've got to find ways to attract it. But the anchor of it has to be around industrialization. We've got to grow the local industries. We've got to see how to protect them, how to support their growth. Key to that is the sectoral master plans, which are beginning to show some green shoots. The clothing industry, for example, has gone through a terrible space where in the mid-90s it was bleeding, hemorrhaging badly. We now have been able to stabilize it with a close master plan between government, business, and labor. We're now actually seeing that jobs have been created. In fact, 20,000 jobs have been created in the clothing industry. But it's got to be anchored upon, JJ, local procurement. We have to make sure the state, industry, and also us as consumers that we aggressively buy locally produced clothes, shoes, cars, furniture, food, etc. We can't simply sustain ourselves as there's some sort of a cheap warehouse for heavily subsidized imports coming from overseas.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the number one issue.
Sorry, Matthews. Is there an agenda on informal trade and informal economy, right? That you can convince me that it's at the top of the agenda of the ANC?
No, there is. And look, I think your point is correct, JJ. To be fair, I mean, we have neglected collectively society, I think, the informal market, informal sector, for many, many years. We've really got to do much, much more to enhance it. I think one of the key vehicles for doing that is the public procurement bill that will be passed by Parliament next week, which is really going to seek to elevate not just local procurement, but also emerging SMEs, informal sector as well, because we can't continue simply to champion or to make it easy for big established companies to do business, but somehow forget the local guys. So we've got to do much more. Yeah. We also saw, JJ, a very painful lesson during COVID-19 when the government put aside about 200 billion rand for a loan guarantee scheme, but big banks basically suffocated it. So that's got to be done. We've got to make sure we have much greater pressure on the banks to make capital much more accessible. One of the key things to that is finally having a state bank. So the president signed about a month ago the Post Bank Amendment Act, which is going to allow the Post Bank to become a fully fledged state bank. That's going to be key because if you simply leave it to the established big five banks, they're never really going to support SMEs.
All right. But Tunja, are you convinced by that? I mean, it's not a bad thing, this Post Bank becoming a state bank, or you think it's all marbles?
Firstly, we didn't forget to register. I think they forget who they are. I mean, where they are is about lining their jacket to be ministers. Is the only way that they can use is an alliance. The alliance is so good for them. There's nothing that has to do with the future of the working class in South Africa based on this alliance. It's a cabal of themselves, looking after themselves. Sibanye Stillwater is retrenching over 4,000 workers. Sure. Impala is retrenching over 4,000 workers. Sirit is retrenching over 1,500 workers. 3 mine workers are still trapped at Lily Mine as we speak. So all those things are happening in their watch. They are in the alliance. They cannot influence just because those workers who are trapped at Lily Mine are the members of AMCO. Sure. So that's the reason. We spoke to the former state president, Bob Jacob Zuma. He done nothing. We spoke to the sitting president, who was my general secretary in NUM, by the way, of which we saved him at Manzimnyama at Vovo Grants when they wanted to arrest him at the mining coal in Witbank. But today, when we write to him to say, save that container, they can't do anything for mine workers. But they do have power on concomitant action. That kills the workers, but they cannot have a concomitant action to change the tragedy of the working class in South Africa. So therefore, hence we are coming with the Labour Party. That's why we are going to Constitutional Court on Wednesday to test to say this is not fair for 67 parties to be excluded. So we have to, quickly, we cannot be doing one and the same thing. I mean, this democracy is becoming like a racket at the end of the day, because we don't know where we are going. We have to change the status quo. We have to reset this country. They've been talking about the state bank. Where is post office today? How many workers are going to be retrenched? They are closing down. They can't protect. We believe in social wage for the downtrodden. If the government
but it's saying there's 27 million people on social grants.
A welfare state, can you be proud of that, being a unionist? Can you be proud? Where is the dignity of a black child, a future of the black child? Where is the dignity of the black worker? 350, even their dogs, to take them to the veteran, it doesn't cost 350.
All right, Fred, come in there. What do you think political parties specifically must do on the informal trade level in order for you to take them serious?
Thank you very much once more. I think political party, especially on the side of maybe of a ruling party, if they can be able to, for now, I think maybe I'll also be addressing this to
Matthews.
To Matthews, actually, to say that during a Mangaung conference, they spoke about a scraping of trading permits for all the informal traders. Because at the end of the day, when we look at what maybe the informal traders are paying for those trading permits, they are benefiting nothing on that. Because the very same money that you are paying, they say it's a trading permit, maybe it's 250 rand. When you want them to bring the service back to you, that money is not there. At the municipality, that money is not there. So, but you find out that at the end of the day, maybe some of the buildings or infrastructure are built maybe through SLP. Then after that, those things has to be maintained. And we are expecting that those things must be maintained through that particular money of that we are paying as a
so you're expecting some kind of municipal services, for example, to help you maintain order in the places where you are trading, like that, give you shelter, etc. And none of that is happening.
I'm telling you, so that's why we even say, we've been talking with Salga, we've been talking even with Cogta, to say, no, what about if maybe you are saying now, let's have a certain, maybe a regulation in which we can say this particular money that we are paying as informal traders on the rainy days, then we have its own special, specific, what do you call it, account, so that when we pay that money, it must come back again to us.
All right. After the break, I want us to zone in on just a few remarks about what would be the key pillars, right, of an agenda focusing on the working class, right, as we go towards that election, and we will wrap up the conversation that way. It's part of truth. We're talking about the working class. Do any of the political parties have the working class in mind? Is it even realistic to expect that in the current capitalist system, right, that has proved itself over years, I mean, even within what was going to be a slightly, progressive system, you still had gear there and all the other things that I don't know what they called it themselves from. They named it many things. And now at NDP, I think it's a 20th iteration of a police. If you count as GISA and all of this. Is it realistic to think that's going to change really, regardless of which government you bring in place, because of the structural nature of the economy? Your view there?
Oh, your question is the excellent that I wanted to address from the beginning. And this is the point that I was even making today on my Twitter account. That, look, we don't care which party is in power at the end. It can wear this color, it can wear black, green, and gold, it can wear blue, it can wear whatever. But if the parties do not recognize that we inherited an economy, a neo-colonial economy, and we have not restructured that economy, an economy that is based on extraction of our minerals and sending them overseas, raw as they are, and therefore not beneficiating and creating secondary industries in South Africa to create jobs here. If we're going to continue marching on just fixing the environment, then we are doomed as the working class. We're already sitting in what we call the precipice. We are already reaching a point of no return when it comes to the crisis of unemployment. If we're not going to have a state that will say, but these levels of unemployment, poverty, inequalities are unsustainable, including corruption, are not sustainable. And that if we continue with this path of stealing, including in the main by the private sector, assisted by the bureaucrats in the state that are corrupt, we are doomed. And therefore we need to scrap the whole idea of neoliberalism. If we do not scrap the program of austerity, cutting budget in the midst of the worsening crisis of unemployment and poor service delivery to the marginalized majority, which is in the main black people, then we are doomed. So if you ask us the three things, to us, restructure the economy, end neoliberalism, stop austerity programs, and re-industrialize this economy based on ensuring that...
But it sounds like everything Matthew was saying. Matthew, you agree with Vavi. I mean, surely we can't carry on with an austerity program in the midst of so much poverty and underdevelopment.
No, we would agree with Comazweli. And I think on most issues, we'll find that we agree with ourselves. But I think, look, for us, what are the key things to do? I think number one is what are the practical interventions that we can do today and tomorrow and so forth? Number one is fixing ESCOM to ensure we have reliable and affordable electricity. Because if ESCOM is not working, the economy can't work. We've got to make sure that Transnet 2 is fully operational, because it has a huge impact upon the mining, the manufacturing, the agricultural sectors, huge job-rich sectors of the economy. JJ, we have to make sure Metro Rail is fully operational again, because that's key to transporting 10 million commuters in our cities to work on time, to boost productivity across the urban economies. It also means other SOEs have got to be fixed. It means local governments got to be fixed, because we've seen many rural towns, whether it's Lichtenberg or Frankfurt, companies closing because municipalities fail to provide basic services.
Sorry, Matthew. The thing is, somebody watching will say, but you destroyed all those things you are saying must be fixed. So why must they be put in your hands again to fix? Because, I mean, if you say fix Transnet, Transnet was functioning fine until you arrived on the scene. Prasa was functioning fine until you corrupted it. ESCOM was fine until it was hollowed out by your own comrades who have not been punished. And COSATU is not calling for the people who are listed in the state capture to be punished. So, in other words, we're going to go into the same cycle. What do you say to such a thing? I'm sure you get this question all the time as you are trying to campaign.
Look, I think it's a little bit unfair to blame workers for some family which came from India and who looted the state. I think it's a bit unfair to blame the train drivers at Transnet, because they're not the ones who stole it. And again, it's not the train drivers at Metro Rail who are stealing cable theft. That is sophisticated criminal syndicates. It's not the workers at SARS who appointed a corrupt commissioner. We all know who did it. The Zondo Commission has shined a powerful spotlight on it. Some of them, unfortunately, fled to Dubai. But I think also when we do see a bit of progress that the state is being cleansed, and even the ANC, as much as Matunjwa or Vavi might not agree, but when you see people like Ace Magashule packing the bags, Jacob Zuma packing the bags, that's a sign for us, a positive thing. When you see a Speaker of the National Assembly being charged by the National Prosecuting Authority, that's a sign for us that the state is being renewed, that society is beginning to deal with it. When we see people being sent to prison by courts because they're not paying taxes, that's a positive sign. When we've seen people being locked up in prison because they're stolen from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, that's a good sign. I think, JJ, is a little bit unfair to say COSATU or workers have stolen or misbehaved, when it's actually COSATU which marched to say that Jacob Zuma must go. We can't tolerate a person who can betray the nation's trust and sell out the workers for a pittance. I think for us, what must be done is fixing the systems, because we can have friendship, we can put faith in individuals, and they'll disappoint you, they'll misbehave. But if you have strong systems, from tax to the prosecuting authority to the police, that's how you're going to turn things around.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I was saying your comrades stole and destroyed. You are in alliance with them, so you can't take the nice parts and leave the bad parts. The reality is nobody has been charged following the state capture report. The ANC, even internally, hasn't punished anybody. Now, if you say, oh, we're going to fix Transnet now, but the people who destroyed it haven't been punished, I have a problem. Atunja, can you come in there?
Yeah, the problem here, we've got people who are called themselves leaders, but they cannot take decisions. When they have to take decision, they shift the decision to certain people because they are afraid of the consequences of the decisions. That is where we are. So you cannot have a family and bring your children and say, how can I run this family? This is what they're doing. Everything that is facing ANC government or this government always will be taken to the commission, knowingly who was doing the crime. Instead of arresting, wasting our money. I mean, Zondo Commission cost us how many billions? If they know exactly who is the criminal, today, if I'm found in the wrong side of the law, they will never establish any commission. They will just send Mr. Tele to come and arrest me with these boys. So why them always, when there is a problem where the state president must take decisive decisions, he doesn't, he always shifts to the commission. Then we are on autopilot. There is no leadership in this country. That's a problem, because he does not want to live on the consequences of the decision. Always he wants to blame, no, it's a Hampempe commission who took the decision. Not me, my comrade, not me. You see, that's a problem that we can't run a country like this. We are a failed state. If we can say 30 years, what have we built? Most of the institutions that we are using are the same of apartheid nationalist party, of which we cannot even maintain. I was coming here in Joburg this evening. The robots were controlled by those young kids of ours called Nyaupes. Can you believe the whole city? Where are we going? So we are going on the 29th to go and vote again. We are going to vote without having a knowledge, not being educated. That the decision that we make, we will live by the consequences of that particular decision.
Leave it there. Your parting shot, Vavi?
How I wish that Comrade Matthew and the leadership of COSATU will understand that background right there
with Mandela
and the ANC is what is really compromising them politically. And that it is not sustainable to keep both. You can't love anybody above what the love you must express to the workers that pay your salary and that you claim to be leading. That's the fundamental crisis. For example, my dear comrade says, you ask him, so what did you put? What is in the manifesto thanks to your pressure? He says the NHI. But the NHI was there in 2009. And President Zuma was supposed to have delivered it in his first 5 years of his administration. Up to today, the NHI bill have not been signed. It's a pie in the sky. It have all manner of other problems, by the way. I would have thought that COSATU in 2009, with its own credibility in disarray, will do the following. Will say to the ANC guys, our vote is no longer free. We're not going to support you anymore unconditionally. We're not signing any blank check. We have 3 demands. Restructure the economy, end austerity programs, make sure that we move away from the neoliberal approaches to this economy. Look at even the past 30 years. We've done an analysis of what have happened in the past 30 years economically. We look at always, JJ, every time the government come to the party investing, there is always the benefit that accrue to the economy as a result of that. In the years of Mbeki, we used to Funigi and all of that, we bought our men. But in that period between 2003 and 2008, you know what have happened? The levels of investment in the economy grew by 14%. As a result of that, when you look at that decade, the overall investment by government increased by 92%. The result of that was that we created 3.1 million jobs, and the economy responded by that with the jobs rather. The jobs started to be created to the point that we had a 27% unemployment rate and massive 5.9 million increase in jobs. The point that I'm making that at least COSATU should have said, even if you give us that, instead of the current situation where the levels of investment have declined by 37.7% since 2009.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Gentlemen, unfortunately, never enough time for...
You can't sign a blank check again, guys. I mean,
all right.
guys,
never enough time for this.
Matthews,
Labour Party
invite you to the studio next time.
Put conditions for your support.
Get Labour Party on the ballot, then you'll see the changes in this country. We're going to have to
leave it there. I hope that triggered thoughts in you about whether or not any of the political parties do really care about the working class and whether any of the things that they are putting on the table will benefit the majority of the working class in this country. But until we talk frankly again, may God bless you.